everybody, and welcome to this video. I am enormously excited to say that I can start to talk about Scarlet Nexus today. This is Bandai Namco's first big JRPG for the new generation as such, so there was an awful lot of interest in it, and I am happy to say that it has delivered on every level. You can check out my review on digitallydownloaded.net for my full thoughts about the game, but basically I do love it, and I've given it a very high score in kind. Now, I was a little bit wary about this game going into it because I am not the world's biggest fan of Bandai Namco stuff. Usually, I do enjoy the Tales series, of course. I play all of them and do enjoy them. But in comparison to the likes of Atelier and Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy, this is not my favourite publisher of JRPGs as a rule. So I was a little bit wary of Scarlet Nexus going in, but thankfully it washed my concerns away almost immediately, and then it had me gripped throughout the entire thing. I think this is a remarkable game. I think that if this is to become a franchise, then it has started in the most spectacular way possible. If it is a one-off, that is okay as well. I'm sure sales will have a role about whether there is going to be a Scarlet Nexus 2 down the track. But either way, I think that whatever Bandai Namco does with this, what they've done with this one particular title is exceptional. Now, I'm not going to review it in this video. This is, as you probably can tell, I'm not working off a script here. I'm just sharing my thoughts. I'm not going to review it because I don't see any point in doubling up on the written review I've done. But I wanted to use this video to talk about one particular area of Scarlet Nexus that really hooked me in at the start and kept me going, because it is something that I find very interesting personally. I've done a lot of study about it. I've written a lot of pieces about it, and I think it's a theme that is really poignant, and I think it's going to be something that we're going to talk about a lot more in the future. We are just starting to see artists grapple with this topic now, and I think it is a sign of what we can expect in the years ahead, not just from Japanese developers, but filmmakers and game makers across the entire world. So the basic premise of Scarlet Nexus is that it depicts an alternative universe as such, and one in which humans have the ability to perceive things that aren't physically in existence, a kind of hyper-reality as such. And that is something that governments and businesses alike use to, for example, display advertising, to section off parts of the world that you can't go into. You know, the equivalent of police tape, only instead of physical police tape, it is now digital police tape. And everybody can kind of see these things. So it becomes a default way of interacting with the world. And it is very much designed to kind of mirror the future, which we are now starting to see happen, in which augmented reality becomes a part of our existence. And wherever we go, we start to see digital media interact with the physical world. What that might look like far down in the future is basically what Scarlet Nexus depicts. And I find this interesting because as I record this video, as I finish up my review, literally at the same time, on Twitter there is this trending topic at the moment where people are now buying digital goods for roughly the same cost as real world goods as a way of fashioning themselves up in the digital world. So we're talking about, fashion items from Gucci and whatever that cost thousands of dollars, just like they would in the real world. People are buying this stuff because their digital persona and their existence in the world of the digital is almost as important these days as your existence in the physical world. A couple of years ago, I came across a really neat video, which I will link to in the description below this video, I think it was called Hyper Reality, and it really kind of showcases almost exactly what you see in Scarlet Nexus, where a person has become so engaged in the digital world that it has basically replaced the physical world, and it asks questions about what is reality now, how do we perceive reality, if we can control our reality, what does that do for us? And again, Scarlet Nexus kind of engages with this topic in a really interesting way. I can't give away too much because that would be all spoilers and stuff, but it really is core to the experience of Scarlet Nexus, the idea that the world is now kind of sectioned off between the physical existence and this virtual existence as well, and how they play against one another, what that means for the very nature of humanity, and so on and so forth. And there are plenty of other examples of it out there. If you watch Blade Runner 2049, for example, the ability to create entire digital beings like the Joy Unit, which becomes your kind of companion, is a big topic. There was an art gallery I went to a few years ago in Japan where the artist envisioned something like 49 different apocalypse scenarios, and one of those apocalyptic scenarios was the ability for us to bring the digital into the real world meant that we no longer needed to have those physical interactions with one another. So eventually humanity just kind of petered out because we all just became invested in these digital worlds of our own creation. And of course, Scarlet Nexus definitely depicts behind the scenes a kind of apocalypse. Everything's very dirty, everything is very grim, very depopulated, all destroyed because the world is being constantly attacked by these beings called the Others, which you don't really know much about until much later on, but for whatever reason, they have started attacking, and the world is in a very kind of precarious position as a result of that. So this game definitely also makes that point about the ability for the digital to become involved with the real world, and whether that implies some kind of apocalyptic future. I think this game does try and kind of grapple with that theme as well. And without giving anything away, there will be Matrix references that other people will draw as well. It is kind of a joining of a lot of pop culture things, because like I said at the start of the video, this is a topic that is going to be increasingly talked about in the world, because it is increasingly possible to do so. We can put on a pair of kind of digitally connected glasses and we can start to superimpose a digital world over the real world, and the question about what that does to our interactions with reality is very much worth talking about, because if we can create our own reality, if we can improve reality to our aesthetic tastes, what does that mean for everything else that we do, and whether we do want to even participate in the real world? So that's really where Scarlet Nexus gets its strength as a theme, and that's what drew me into it. And from there I played on, and I love the game for just about everything else, which again I'll talk about in the review, but the gameplay itself is spectacular. This is one of the best combat systems I've ever experienced in a JRPG. The characterization is brilliant as well. When you walk away from the kind of the main overarching plot and the themes that it explores, the actual writing of this game is exceptional, and that is something that I have always liked from the Tales series as well. I think that the developers have always been able to write really interesting characters and their interactions with one another in a very nice way. And this game hits all of those notes really nicely as well. It's got that balance of quite serious themes with more bubbly moments to give you some levity and really connect with the characters as you play along as well. So the moment-to-moment experience of Scarlet Nexus is top shelf stuff. The game doesn't break too far away from JRPG tradition in terms of structure and so on, so JRPG traditionalists can enjoy it, even though the combat system is very much pitched at people that like a more modern experience there, where Tales games are quite traditional in their approach because the combat system is really building on something that has been around for a very long time now. The developers took the opportunity of this new IP to really experiment and play around and do some very interesting things. So I think that the gameplay stuff is also going to be really good. But it was really those themes that I loved about Scarlet Nexus, and I would like to see more of this stuff. We do see quite a few games that are starting to explore this. I was talking to another game critic who has been playing Scarlet Nexus, and we agree that there is a Caligula effect feel about it as well. Now, they're completely different experiences, tell completely different stories, but because they do both have that question about reality and our interactions with the real versus our ability to create a more desirable state for ourselves, the games actually do have a fair similarity between them, which is perhaps the best indication of all that this game is very much down those themes. But anyway, that is enough for this video. I'm sorry if it rambled a little bit. My thoughts in my review will be much more focused and collected, I promise. But basically, I do love this game. I think that anybody that plays it will find it to be a very enjoyable experience, and I think that Bandai Namco is onto something pretty good with it. So do let me know your own thoughts in the comments once you start to play it yourself. I'd love to chat about this theme in particular, because it's kind of tangent to the main plot, but it is certainly the kind of the conceptual background for the game, and I think that will be talked about less than the gameplay itself in most places. So if you do want to talk about that particular theme in these comments, do let me know and we'll have a good chat. Otherwise, please do mash that like and subscribe button if you've enjoyed this video. That way you'll get to watch all of them as I put them up. And also, if you want to consider backing me on Patreon, then please do so. You can do it for $1 a month. And in doing so, you actually get access to the digital magazine that we do. That's a Patreon backer only thing. It's 48 pages each month, and it's and it's got lots of interesting stuff in there. I think you'll enjoy that if you like thinking about games on a deeper level. And you also get visual novels, which we do as well, and that's also a bonus for Patreon backers. So it's good value for $1 a month, if I do say so myself. Thanks as always for watching. We'll see you at the next video.